I talk about the latest balance patch, as well as what this means for future patches in this video today. What up, everybody? Scuffy here, and wow, we've got a balance patch. I'm a couple days behind the 8 ball here. I was up when the patch happened. I just have not had a chance to get to the video to do a patch breakdown. So I apologize for this being just a couple days late. Like, when I say couple, I mean like we're probably at the 48 hour mark, maybe 46 hours, maybe 50, maybe. So substantial rework to the Emperor's Children. I'd say substantial rework. Necessarily, perfection still works the same way that it always has, but they've gotten some changes. There's some cards that have really needed changes, got changes. Some cards that they were nice. Some additions here. We're going to go all into it. We're going to take a look at that. And there was a couple minor fixes with the Ultramarines. So there's a lot that goes into stake here. We've got the Emperor's Children getting that rework. We're going to take a look at those cards here, and then I also want to talk about how this kind of, I think, was going to impact our balance patches going forward. What we've learned over the last 3 or 4 months, as long as things stay consistent. So first off, one thing that's noted is Fulgrim's Whispers was reduced from 18 to 16 now, so it's a little bit easier to trigger. Still triggers -1 with perfection, but there's a lot more cards that got perfection or enhanced perfection effects, so that's pretty important. Warlord abilities otherwise have stayed the same for everybody. That hasn't changed anything, so Tarvitz is going to work the same way Tarvitz has always worked. Bile's still going to do Bile stuff. Diversionary Tactics gains perfection, draw a card. Now this is really nice because this is one of those 1 energy cards. Most of the perfection for the Emperor's Children come off of even numbered cards. This is an odd number perfection, so it's very nice. It gives you some options there. More importantly, it's a tactic that Fulgrim can generate. So he's generating potential. It stuns. It's always useful. You've got Concentrated Fire, which now has a perfection of healing 2 to your Warlord. That's really nice. It's particularly nice for Lucius, who needs the healing, but that's not just for him. I mean, that can work for Fulgrim, who again can generate at the very least on 2 energy. Fulgrim's going to up his attack to 3 and heal for 2 if he's the only unit out there on the board. So that's a good card. Arrowhorn. My goodness, this card here was terrible. I hated this one. This was one of the worst ones to generate for Fulgrim. Not the worst, but one of the worst. Now, instead it has choose an Astartes from your deck and draw it. Perfection, it gets Draw Pod. This right here, not on the same level of the Salamander's Hope, which basically was choose. It used to be choose and it cost 2 less. Now it's just draw a troop and cost 2 less. But the fact that you're choosing the Astartes, number 1. Number 2, you're giving a Draw Pod a little bit extra beef if you have the perfection. That's great. The old Arrowhorn, the problem with it was you were bouncing your troop back to your hand, and if perfection, you gave it a staff buff, but then you're not playing, because perfection is your 0 energy, so then you're not playing that troop back up in your hand. So it was like, why would you do that? Now you have this option to use this early in the game to get the troop that you want to have, ideally, and also it has Draw Pods, so that's cool. Ruined Palace now costs 3 instead of 4, again shifting it into that odd number of perfection. Still does the same thing, Marks of Chaos and perfection, but this note here, Marks of Chaos to your Astartes troops. It's always been Marks of Chaos to your Astartes troops. I think after we take a look at all of these cards that got changed, you'll see why that actually is besides the odd number, is actually a really good change. So hold at all costs. Draw 3 cards, perfection, refill your energy. This is fantastic. This actually flipped the card on its head, because before it was fill your energy, perfection. If you have no cards in hand, draw 5 cards. Now, the drawing is not conditional. You get it, and then as a perfection, you get to refill your energy. Now, we're going to have a big discussion about this card here at the Warp Chatter podcast. I anticipate we're going to do that call tomorrow. So by the time you see this video, look for the balance patch discussion next Thursday. That's with Jay Thrills and Dr. Kanisko from the Discord. However, this card here, we're going to be talking about because this is problematic. This is such a strong fix right now with everything in the Emperor's Children is dangerous. I want to talk about more of the balance patches, but other cards that have been added, but I think I need to pause on this one because this, before it refilled your energy, that was always great. Cool, refill your energy, but the condition was to draw cards. So if you don't have anything in hand, this isn't going to, or one or two cards that are troops, it's not going to do much. You might play one unit, maybe two tactics more than you normally would. But then you'd run out of steam. You wouldn't have any cards, or you'd have one or two cards left. Or you empty your hand, you don't know what you're getting, and you filled your hand up, and the way it worked was clunky. It was still good to refill your energy for 4. This was a great card for Lucius before. This is still a great card for Lucius now. It's not a bad card if Fulgrim creates it, and it's even better now that Fulgrim creates it. But it was really kind of situational. It wasn't always include. Now there is no reason not to include this. You're getting 3 cards for 4 energy. That alone is not a bad price. 4 for 3. Perfection, refill your energy. The problem right there is the perfection, because it's so easy to pay 4 or maybe even 2, thanks to Tactical Brilliance, to play hold at all costs, refill your energy after drawing 3 cards, and then go off it again. Now, why is that so problematic? Because the fact is, the Emperor's Children, along with cards like Saul Tarvitz, Tactical Brilliance, have already got ways to reduce the cost of their cards. And at a late turn in the game, when you've got 8 to 10 energy, maybe even 7 to 10 energy, and you manage to perfection off a hold at all costs, you are basically playing 2 turns or twice as much energy pool. 2 energy pools, 2 turns of energy. Where does that sound familiar? It sounds familiar if you think about it. That's the same problems and complaints that people have had with the Thousand Suns, as well as with the Night Houses. That second source of energy, that second pool of energy that you can't touch. Now, the Emperor's Children's energy here is a little conditional, because you have to play a card to refill it. But again, you don't have to pay it at 4 if you've got Tactical. If you just don't have Tactical Brilliance, but you're playing Saul, you can play it at 3, and you're still getting 3 cards that may combo into other things, but you're also getting more energy. Basically, the ideal turn, like let's just say at 10 energy, you play this at 4, you're getting 16 energy. You're paying 6, then you're playing 4, you're drawing 3 cards, and you're getting 10 more energy. But typically that's not what you're going to do, especially with all of the cards that exist in the game to help reduce the cost of cards. And I'm talking about cards like War Room and Drilling Site. Drilling Site giving you additional energy, and War Room, which allows you to draw cards for a reduced cost, right? And then we can just talk about the Emperor's Children cards in general, such as For the Emperor, which is reduce the cost of all cards in your hand by 1. So it's very easy to play this less than 4 energy. So then 10 energy maybe gives you 7 energy. You play this for 3, or 7 to 8 energy. You play it for 2 with the Tactical Brilliance. So you have 8, then you get 10 more, plus 3 cards, which maybe are additional cost reduction cards, which allow you to play more things. Or if you're Fulgrim, and you happen to have created multiple hold at all costs through the course of the game, you could steamroll and play almost, I won't say infinite, but almost 2 to 3 turns worth of energy with multiple hold at all costs, if you manage to chain them. Now that's kind of an extreme example, but it's a problem. If you haven't heard it already, you're hearing it now here, and I think you should pay attention and be ready to hear more people complain about this card, because the changes to the Emperor's Children here are very nice, but the change that really is making them beyond is this card here. It really ups the scale. Now, Chaplain Charmosian, this is a grade 5 energy epic troop that was always kind of a fuddy-dud. He just has a rally now, in addition to the backlash. The backlash was not bad, but it wasn't great. It wasn't great because it's a backlash, so they can control it. If they get rid of the other troops, then he doesn't put marks of chaos in anything. But now, this rally and the backlash comboing means that stuff is going to get marks of chaos, especially if you time it right. More importantly, I think, and I can't remember off the top of my head, but I think before his was mark of chaos to your Emperor's Children Astartes, or just Astartes, but now this is non-demon troops, so even your vehicles and structures can get marks of chaos as well. So that's a really nice change. The other big change, and I mean big, is enhanced warrior, like literally big, bulky big. So for 6, he's a 5/5, which right away has got resolution. He's going to be a +1/+1, so he's going to be a 6/6, and then get stronger every turn. But he has perfection enhance this troop. Now, what we found so far through play testing is the enhanced. Initially on the surface, we thought, oh, that must be like a Fabius Bile enhanced buff. It's not. It's not. In fact, what the enhanced warrior is getting, he's getting mutations. He's getting mutations from the Ruinstorm card pool, and not all of them, but most of them that provide like a stat point. Like he can get ward. He can get, somebody said that he's been able to get frontline. He can get cleave 2. He has been able to receive survivor. And I believe somebody said that they've seen him get a +1/+1. Now, I have not heard if he's gotten poisonous +0/+2 or rage. Terror has been reported and confirmed. The +3/+0, I don't think so. And the flank, I don't think the Inhuman Grace is another one that I don't think anybody's reported. So those are 2 of the mutations that he's not getting, but it just gets a mutation, which right out the gate you're getting a 6/6 that is going to have one of these effects if you play it with perfection, and that's not bad, especially if you get ward. If you happen to get ward on a 6/6 that turns into a 7/7 on your next turn, and so on and so forth, yeah, that's pretty nice. Now, the reason why I said this is such a big change, because it's an Astartes, which the Emperor's Children, for the most part, were really riding on their vehicles, right? Agnamen and the jet bikes, and then maybe early game the Tiberland bikes. But now we've got a better Astartes that can come up before Sardarian Terminators that can get stronger, and that might have some additional protection. It's also a 6-cost card. For the longest time, the 6-cost card to go to was Agnamen. You might have Rillinor, you might have Perfection's Flight, but as far as troops go, that was it. You didn't have any other options you were even considered. Enhanced Warrior was a 2/3 for 6 energy that had like a terrible ability. It was ridiculous. This makes it good. This makes it really good. This makes it even better if you can play it for 4 energy with the Tactical Brilliance, and you get a 5/5 that's a ward that at the end of your turn becomes a 6/6. Yeah, possibly the biggest, well, it is, without a doubt, it's the biggest improvement in the patch, but possibly it's tied for the best card. I still think Hold at All Costs is the card that this patch is really taken to the next level, but that's not bad. Hammer of Justice, here's another one that was changed, just gains a perfection, which was nice. 7/8 frontline, but now its perfection actually has the ability to destroy a random enemy troop with 4 or less, so that's cool. We're seeing Predator tank that comes in and blasts something. Oh, I skipped over peak condition. Peak condition also has perfection. That unit gets Mark of Chaos. So not only are they getting +1/+1, but they're getting a Mark of Chaos as well, which also is a stat buff, as well as, terror. What is it? Poisonous, and what is the other one? Yeah, that's just it. Like, that's a lot, guys. Unbreakable Focus hasn't changed. That's still +1 to all your troops. But if you just have one troop, you can make them pretty gnarly, especially if your opponent is playing with multiple units. So, did I miss anything for the Emperor's Children? Let me just take a quick look here. I don't think so. No, that's all of them. Yeah, that's the Emperor's Children portion of the stuff. Now, before we get into the other little quick updates here, that's pretty meaty. Again, I think the biggest two cards to come out of that are Enhanced Warrior and Hold at All Costs. But the implications that Chaplain Carmosian also has got, Charmosian has got, as well as, where was it? Arrowhorn, right? Choosing Astartes from your deck. Finally, the Emperor's Children have got Astartes. Like, they've had Astartes. They've got some decent Astartes for early game. Really only one for the late game. The rest of it is really vehicles and maybe Sardarian Terminators. So they were really not huge on the Astartes. But now you've got reasons to, enhance the Astartes that you're playing. Now, I don't think you're going to play Laertes. Laertes squad still isn't going to see a whole lot of play, which is a shame. It has potential. I love the artwork there. It's just not going to work. But Calanus might actually have some benefits. A 4/3, even if it doesn't have the Unstoppable. If you're given it Drop Pod, it's a 4/3 with Drop Pod. That also has led to some folks. Why not try out? They got a lot of low-cost Astartes, right? Why not try out the old Emperor's Wrath? Put and play 3 Astartes from your deck that costs 4 or less. What's even better is that's a 9 energy tactic, but what if you play it for 7 or for 6, and then all of a sudden, 4 or less? 4 or less, well, we've got Astartes, 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 and those are just putting them out there for cheap, and then you follow it up with a Hold at All Costs, or some other, the next turn you drop down Chaplain Carmosian, or you throw down a Peak Condition. Maybe you get really, really creative and crafty with it, and you just manage to just do the Jewel of Ultramar, reduce the cost of troops in your deck, Astartes in your deck by 1, and now you've got a Noise Marine or the Odysseus squad coming out flank. I mean, there's a lot of potential there, and the Emperor's Children thrive on that cost reduction possibilities. So overall, that's what they've got. Now, not only did the Emperor's Children get some sweet changes, and they definitely were sweet, but we saw some changes for the Sons of Horus. Very small, very minor. We got 3 cards here that got changed. The one that everybody was really talking about was Second Wave. Second Wave got changed to draw and put in play 2 Astartes from your deck that cost 3 or less. For 3. It used to cost 2 and copied whatever was on the board. Now you're playing 3 to basically put in maybe both of your copies of Sarpati Squad, or both your copies of Myrdas Squad, or both your copies of Kogart Squad. Or how about 3 to just deal 6 damage because you put out 2 plays of Groger Squad? That's not bad, and it's a draw and thin your deck to get to your other cards faster. It puts bodies on the board for a decent cost. If you just include 3 cost Astartes and you don't include these 2 cost Astartes, you're going to get 6 energy worth of troops for 3. Seems like a fair play. You won't be able to copy what's on the board, but you don't need to. And then another one that got added on here was Frontal Assault. Now this one is a little weird because it used to cost 5, now it costs 7. But it also now applies to your Warlord. It gives +3/+0 to your units this turn, which can include your Warlord. So at 10 energy, and this is a little extreme, like just a strange term, but let's just say you have Second Wave. And the only 3 drops you have in your deck are Grover Squad. You put out your 2 Grover Squads. You got 2/3/3 fast. Then your 7 energy, you follow up with Frontal Assault. Each of those Grogers is 6, so now they're dealing 12. Your Warlord's going to deal 5. That's 17 damage for 10 energy. Now that's, again, as I said, it's a little bit of extreme, but what if you're just playing with a couple Astartes on the board? Alright. It's high cost. Maybe it's worth it. What if you're dealing with, I don't know, like an Arcology break, or you've got the Daria's Rhino, which has got backlash and the troops get splattered on the board, right? the old, where are they at? The Cultists. Darius Rhino putting in play the 1/1 Wounded Zealots. And then the next turn you follow it up with, now they're all 4/1s. It's a little extreme. I don't think you're going to see that card get played as much as, I'm making it sound out to be. But those, I think, are going to be possibilities where they weren't before. But what this, so we got that change. We've got the change to the frontal assault. And then I think there was one more card here. Taking a look at it on my screen just to make sure I'm not missing anything here. Treachery, that's what it was. Treachery got lowered by 1. So this used to cost 3, now it costs 2, giving marks of chaos to your Astartes troops. Now, that's not bad. Marks of Chaos for 2, for 5 energy, you're putting in 2 troops, and then you're giving them Marks of Chaos. Like, I'm just comboing Treachery with Second Wave. It's interesting. You're getting some buffed up Astartes. Maybe they're in draw pods. Maybe they're fast. It's hard to say. But this is not entirely speculation. This is information that has been shared from the most recent data mine. Some stuff to look into. There have been stuff that's in the file and the code for upcoming new cards. I believe most of the upcoming new cards are aimed at the first 4 factions, basically the Istvan 3 expansion. One of those cards seems to be, again, without us actually seeing the card, we can't confirm 100%, but the text that's in there seems to indicate that there is going to be a card that works very similar to Host of Angels for the Sons of Horus. But instead of putting in play 3 Clonata squads, and Clonata squads are those little 2/2 guys that can basically become a 4/3 with landing, because that's what Blood Angels have. Instead of putting in 3 of those, this card looks like it puts in play 6 Abacal squads. 6. 6 of these guys with drop pod. So if your opponent can't deal with 6 drop pods, even though these guys are really weak in between, really squishy, if they can't deal with that, maybe there is a deck archetype that can then follow up a frontal assault with those Abacal squads, and now even if 4 of them survive or 2 of them survive, these guys become 5/1s. It's 10 damage plus 5 from your warlord. That's 15 damage. So I have to feel like this is laying the ground for the balance patch, for what might come next. When I say what might come next, we're in November. We haven't had a Q&A yet. This is the telling month. There's news, new material, new content, new changes to the patch. There's data mined stuff. We are looking for 5th warlords. We're looking for new cards to existing factions. I think we're starting to see that in the code. We just haven't seen the announcements made. And if that's the case, if they're laying the groundwork for that, I think between the changes to the Emperor's Children, changes to these couple of cards of Sons of Horus, and if both of these factions, as well as the Death Guard and the World Leaders, receive 5 to 6 more cards, maybe even, fingers crossed, 10 cards each. That's 2 rows of new cards for each faction. That would really open up the potential of what they could do. Like, what would those cards be? Are they troops? Are they Astartes? Are they drop pod focused? Are they perfection focused? What do they do? Do they enhance an existing deck type? Or are they helping us give tools for a deck type that may come? So just keep that in your mind. Keep that in the back of your head, because that's what I'm thinking. Now, the last thing that this patch did here was kind of clean up some of the Ultramarines works. Ultramarines overall got a really big patch last month. They were the big shining examples, and this time around they got a slight tweak here. Just slight, but it's important to note. Logos Lectora no longer reduces an Astartes by 2. It just reduces an Astartes by 1, which is very nice. I think that's fair. I think that's a fair change. For what it does, it's still a very good card. Marcellus only has a rally deal 2 damage as opposed to 3, so with Courage, he's dealing 5 damage. It's only 1 damage less, but it really makes a big difference. One damage late game is sometimes all it takes to win, especially when you're dealing with courage and 9 energy. So I think that's a fair change. Marcellus is still a very good card, but he's not going to seal every game the same way that he would in a pinch. And then the big problem child out of the last patch was Apothecary Theon. They didn't change his ability at all, which is okay. His health went back to 3-5, and I think that's fair. Because he can still heal 2 to himself. There's still lots of ways to pump the health up of Theon when he hits the board. So he can still be a 4-6 that's healing 2 to himself, the next turn a 5-7, and so on and so forth. Is it enough? I don't know if it's enough for everybody, but it seemed to be enough for me. Now I want to talk about what this patch here, this whole patch, collectively, the Emperor's Children, Sons of Horus, and then the cleanup to the Ultramarines, really shows, for me, the last 4 months we have seen the first week of the month, there is a significant patch to an existing faction. Before the Emperor's Children last month, it was Ultramarines. Before that, I believe it was Thousand Sons? No, was it Thousand? I'm just going to scroll back and we're going to find out here. We'll find out together. Yeah, before the Ultramarines, it was the Salamanders. And before the Salamanders, it was the Thousand Sons. And then, before the Thousand Sons, was there anything else before the Thousand Sons? The month prior? In August, it was the Imperial Army. At the start of August was the Imperial Army in addition to the Thousand Sons. And then in July was the Iron Hands. And that was the first week of July. June saw just a couple minor changes. So from July to November, that's July, August, September, October, November, that's 5 months. 5 months, Everguild has the first week of the month put out a substantial patch for some rework, for a faction that isn't up to speed or that is outdated or needs some little love, needs a lot of love. And they've really reworked things that were not working as well as they had hoped for, or maybe that they intended. Psyker troops for the Thousand Sons, sacrifice for the Salamanders, the entire concept of the Ultramarines getting stronger, perfection, just more perfection within the Emperor's Children. There's a lot of things there that they've really revamped, and then each of those patches also had a few cards that they cleaned up. I didn't really include that, but that was part of it. They cleaned up the Luther stuff. They made Luther a little bit better, and they tiled it down a little bit. They fixed up a little bit more with the Thousand Sons, what wasn't working from the big old patch, and so on and so forth. These little things, these little minute things, cleaned up the cost of the teachings, and I like this. I think that this is good, and this is a big step and consistent improvement to how they're doing balance patches. Now there is, what is there, 7 plus 12, 15, 18. There's 18 factions in the game, and the neutrals are much bigger than that. There's no way that they can do all of them. They can't patch all of them. They can't make everybody happy. There are some factions. There is one very notable faction, but there's a couple other factions that are really stale or have not stood the test of time, really need something beyond just their one warlord carrying the pack, so to speak. They can't get to all of these. They can't get to all of them every 2 weeks or every month, but if they are going to be consistent with what they've been doing, even with this upcoming content, which should add to older expansions, older warlords. If we see the Death Guard and the World Eaters finally get some cards to support a new deck archetype for them and make them more than just the faces that have been running the places, make them more than just Mortarion, or Garrow or Typhon and lots of healing and poison, but let's give us some more stuff, like give us more than just Death Shroud, give us some builds. And I'm not talking about like improving these cards. I'm talking about adding cards to make things better. Maybe giving Rask some options, some troops that support him. take a look at the card creation contest video, the winners, I had there, like, somebody had a really great idea having troops that did something different for each warlord. It's a fantastic idea. I don't know if they could code it, but if they get these cards, and then in addition to that, Everguild continues to put out one big patch every month. In 1 year, it'll only be 12 factions, really, that they can cover out of the 18. They couldn't do it all, but they could make sure that those 12 factions that they got were the ones that were at the lower scale. Now, you could argue that the Ultramarines weren't really at the lower scale, the Emperor's Children weren't really at the lower scale of things. Definitely, the Night Lords are at the lower scale. They do require some rework there. Custodes have been on and off. Space Wolves, it's just one warlord carrying the group. We're not even going to talk about things like the Imperial Fist, which is really, right now, I think a lot of people it's just Diaz, or the Raven Guard, which have got a couple tricks up their sleeve, but you don't see Nev, you don't see Six. But if you get a big patch for them once a month, you know it's going to happen. You know it's going to be the first week of the month. You can look forward to checking into the game and seeing what has been updated. There's consistency there. And that's really important for the game. That's really important for players to see and to feel. And even though Everguild has not been openly communicating with Q&As or anything beyond their announcements, beyond what they put out here and what they put up on Facebook, they are, in fact, communicating. They're communicating with consistency. And maybe we don't need an open dialogue with them. We don't need them to directly answer each of our questions. If they're putting out stuff for us every month, we know we're going to get it. And if we know we're going to get it, then we can enjoy the game. We know the game is in a good place. So that's my thoughts on it. And we're going to be talking, again, a lot of that, I think, with other players in the Warp Chatter podcast tomorrow night. So if you're interested in hearing what others have to say, you want to dial into that, the podcast is up on most listening platforms. You can check it out on Spotify, Podbean, Apple iTunes, Google Podcasts. I mean, the links for all those are down in the description of the video. Please check it out. Let me know what you think. It's a great way to interact with the community. I really enjoyed doing that. We've been doing it for 30. This will be episode 33. That's weekly. That's 33 weeks of show content. That's a lot. That's like 8 months. That's almost this whole year. It'll be a year in like January, man. It's something that I enjoy doing because it helps give us a voice. It's a podcast by players for players. And hopefully people are watching it, people are listening to it, whether you agree or don't agree with everything that's said in there. We're not just talking about the game, we're talking about Warhammer 40,000, lore, our favorite stuff. Sometimes we go on tirades about other things. You get to meet and talk, or hear from, I should say, players. We've had some top 50 players out there. We have had Vapix, Mr. Midnight, Constantine Valdor, Pirate, GMAT. We've had LCFR, some other guys that aren't on here but are in the community out there. Just in general, it's a good show. I enjoy putting it on, and I hope those who listen to it enjoy it as well. If you do, let me know in the comments below. I really appreciate that, guys. Also, I am fighting hard. I am fighting to hit 1,000 subs. Please, if you like the video, if you like the channel, subscribe, set your notifications, share the content, let people know, preach the word, let them know that we're out here. Don't do it for me. Do it for me, please. But mainly, I really want to hit more subs, 1,000 subs, to get to a point where I can say, okay, I've got 1,000, and there are people who are actively watching. I have 900 subs right now, and typically most of my videos, for whatever reason, are only getting 200 views. So either I've got 700 people who are subbed and don't watch the views, or the algorithm of YouTube is kind of burying me amongst the murk, and I don't want to get lost. So whatever help I can get, if I get more views, if I get more likes, that really helps tie and brings more attention to the channel and the content that I put in here. And I really want to share that with people, and I would appreciate any sort of help that you guys can do. And really, sometimes all it takes is just a little click, a little say, hey, check out this new video, or if you haven't heard about this channel, if you're a newer player, check this guy out. I can only hope that those are the kind things that are being said. So we've got some more content coming up here through the next week. I've got all sorts of videos planned if I have time to do them, so please look forward to it. We're talking about a couple deck lists for the Imperial for the Emperor's Children. We're still got to do the card by card for the Imperial Fists and the Agents of the Sigilate and the Sisters of Silence, and I want to do a campaign stream. I don't know if I'm going to be able to stream. My streaming capabilities, my Wi-Fi connection is not very strong, so if I can't stream, I'm going to record it. I haven't done this. I've held off from this campaign to do that because I had fun doing that with the Raven Guard campaign. I hope people enjoyed watching that. We've got this new event that is almost over, and I haven't even showed stuff about there's just so much to do, guys. There's so much to do, and I got to get to it. So that's it for this section of the video. Let me know what you think about the updates. Let me know if there's other things that you'd like to see from the channel. And until next time, keep playing Legions, and I will talk to you later.